Storytime of how I figured out that my sister was trying to kill me. So me and my sister were like best friends when we were little, but she was a very, very jealous person. So years and years go on, but her jealousy seems to start to grow. So I never really thought about it until I found out that she really wanted me dead. But throughout the years, she would do little things to get me hurt. For example, she pushed me off the top of our treehouse and I ended up breaking my arm. But every time I got hurt, my family would baby me and she would get even more mad. So at this time, we're about 16 years old, and I had to go in her room to get her laundry. And under her laundry, I found her diary. Or journal, or whatever you call it. I was flipping through the pages, I found out some interesting and crazy things. Then one was named The Perfect Murder. What an original name. She had this big, huge dresser in her room. She went into a lot of detail about how she was gonna kill me. But it stated that she was gonna push the dresser on top of me and jump on it until I, then scream for help. I'm running out of time, like for part 2. Part 2 of how I found out that my sister was trying to kill me. Continuing with the story, after I read what I read in her diary, I decided it was best to keep it to myself. So about a month and a half later, I start to think to myself and I'm like, okay, maybe she's not actually gonna do it. Y'all, I don't know why, but I was literally not scared that my sister was like about to kill me. So about 2.5 months after I read what I read in her diary, she calls me into her room and in this fakest voice ever goes, "Sissy, why are you being so distant from me?" I just looked at her like she was crazy. Then she goes, "I know you read my diary." At that exact moment, she looked psycho. I don't know what I was thinking, but right after she said that, my reflex was to knock her out. So I knocked her out, then I stomped on her head. I called my mom into the room and read her the diary, or whatever the heck my sister put in there. Mind you, while I'm reading my mom this diary, she's still knocked out on the floor. My mom then continues to say she's gonna put her in a mental hospital. So to this day, my sister's in a mental hospital, and if you're listening to this and you ever get out, please don't kill me. I'm actually living an amazing life right now.
Story time on how my Uber driver tried to kidnap me on my birthday. Okay, y'all, so today's story is my own. And thank you guys for 1 million followers. All right, y'all, let's get into it. Okay, so boom. About 2 years ago in 2019, I lived by myself in my own apartment. At this time, I was at the end of my lease and I was actually moving to another apartment. I had to do everything by myself because I had nobody to help me, so I had to go get a U-Haul truck. This was my first time using Uber because I have my own car. But to get to U-Haul, I had to Uber over there so I could get the truck and then go from apartment to apartment. My first Uber driver bringing me to the U-Haul truck was fine. I had no issues with him and it was pretty normal and fast. So once I was done with the U-Haul truck and I was done moving, I had to return the truck to its location. And then I had to Uber back to my apartment where my car was. Now this second Uber driver, this is where the issue comes in. Y'all, it was literally crazy. My life was at stake. Life for part 2. Part 2 on how my Uber driver tried to kidnap me on my birthday. Okay, so boom, like I said, I returned my U-Haul truck and I waited for my Uber driver to come pick me up. When my Uber driver came to pick me up, right from the beginning, I knew something was off about him. Always trust your instincts. He was a little weird and off, but I told myself that it's only a 10-minute drive and it will be over soon. So I sat on the back of the car and I just stayed on my phone. You know, minding my business. And then the guy just started talking to me like, I guess he was trying to have small talk. But the weird thing is, I couldn't understand what he was saying. Yeah, I didn't know what he was saying, but I just thought he wanted to do small talk. So I just was like, oh yeah, yeah, oh, ooh, ah. But then all of a sudden he went off the path of my route. I was like, excuse me, you took the wrong turn. Then he turned back and looked at me and said, I think we're going exactly where we need to be. It gets worse. Like for part 3. Part 3 on how my Uber driver tried to kidnap me on my birthday. Okay, so boom, like I said, he went off the path of my route. And I said, excuse me, you made the wrong turn. Then he turned around and looked at me and said, I think we're going exactly where we need to be. I still didn't get it and I looked confused and I was just like, just drop me off at this gas station here. And child, he locked the door. At that moment, my heart sank and I knew exactly what was going on. I was being kidnapped on my birthday. He locked all the doors and put child lock so I wouldn't be able to unlock and leave either. I was under pressure, but I knew I had to think fast and get out of this situation. Y'all, he was driving fast, but thank God he wasn't on a highway, so there was red lights. And I live in Miami, so traffic hour is real. I knew that once he stopped at a red light, that would be my only chance to get out this car. So here we go. We stopped at the red light and I took his head and bashed it into his steering wheel. He didn't see it coming, so I did it pretty easy. Running out of time, like for part 4. Part 4 on how my Uber driver tried to kidnap me on my birthday. Okay, so boom, like I said, he stopped at a red light and I took his head and started bashing it into the wheel. He didn't see it coming, so that's why I was able to overpower him at that moment. As I was bashing his head, I knew that his door was the only way I was able to get out because of the child lock. As I bashed his head, I unlocked the door and I literally sling my whole body to the front of the car and I was literally on top of him. Unlocked the door, opened it, and I just jumped out. He held onto one of my legs, so I ended up falling on the floor on the street. But at this point, everyone was looking and someone was coming to my rescue, so he just closed his door and locked it. And as soon as the light turned green, he bolted. I was bruised all over, like my arm, but mostly my knees. I went inside the gas station and I waited for my friend to come pick me up. Y'all, all this on my birthday ruined my whole day. But I say that to say this: be careful. Thank you guys for 1 mil.
My mom tried to drown this little girl. Story time. When I was about 4 or 5 years old, my family got a pool, so they signed me up for swimming lessons. And I loved everything about the class except for this one girl who we're gonna name Pamela. She was the worst. And every time we had a class, when nobody was looking, she would hold my head underwater for an extremely long time. Now, normally, my dad would take me to my swimming lessons, but this time, my mom ended up taking me. And my mom does not play when it comes to her kids. So during class, Pamela thought nobody was looking, so she started holding me underwater again. However, my mom saw. My mom ends up running over, grabbing me out of the water, and then she grabs Pamela by the head, dunks her under the water, and holds her there for a really long time. Thank God the instructor was there because
This story time is about why I refused to ever live in a college dorm room. So my sophomore year, I was able to get a room with my best friend Tiana. I was happy because we always talked about getting a room together, but sooner or later, I realized it was a big mistake. There was one time I let her borrow my Ugg boots because it was cold outside, but she started wearing them every day. When she finally returned them, they were wet and dirty. I was irritated, and she said that she would give me the money to get new ones, but she never did. She then started asking if she could borrow a shirt. Me being nice, I let her. But she then started taking advantage. Girl was taking all of my things without permission. My jacket, pants, shorts, everything. And she wouldn't even clean them before giving them back to me.
Story time. So ever since I was like 8 years old, I've always gotten headaches. And I don't know why. I drink water, I eat enough food, and I get enough sleep, but I still just be getting headaches for no reason. Anyways, my freshman year, someone convinced me that I had a brain tumor. I really believed it too. It was quite embarrassing. So I was doing cheer at the time, and I was getting nosebleeds like every single day along with a raging headache. And they would always happen randomly. Like I wasn't doing anything to cause them. It just happened. So one day, in the middle of my math class, my nose just started bleeding. Before that, I had a terrible headache, and the girl that was sitting next to me told me my nose was bleeding. As I'm cleaning my nose, the girl's like, I noticed that you get a lot of headaches and nosebleeds. My grandpa had a brain tumor, and I think that's what you have. And I was just sitting there like, I guess this is how God wanted me to go out. The whole day I was stressing. Then when I get home, I start writing my mom a goodbye letter and picking out the clothes I want at my funeral. Then I told my sister about it, and she smacked me upside the head and called me stupid.
I think we killed a girl. Story time. When I was young, me and the neighborhood kids used to love playing Truth or Dare. And there was this one girl who used to play with us, and we're gonna name her Peggy. Now, Peggy was one of those kids who was not afraid to do any dare. One time somebody dared her to pierce her own ear using a very sharp pencil, and she did it. Like, she took Truth or Dare very seriously. Well, the last time we played Truth or Dare with Peggy, things got pretty wild. Like, someone dared me to crush a worm with my bare feet, and yes, I did it, it was gross. But when it got to Peggy's turn, she was dared to do something deadly. Somebody, not me, but somebody, picked up a piece of glass off the street and dared Peggy to swallow it. And because Peggy took the game way too seriously, she did it. The next thing you know, she started coughing up blood, we all freaked out, she runs home, and we never see her again.